Hello folks, Phil Gallagher of ThrabenU here for a super spicy miracles list. Okay, I know what you're thinking. How spicy can miracles be? Well, Marshall C has given me the answer to that question. So this is their donation deck list, and it is built around old, old school legacy tech of Isochron Scepter. So back when I first started playing Legacy, this was still a real card that you would sometimes see in events. You imprint an instant with CMC 2 or less from your hand on it, and then you can pay 2 mana to copy that card without paying its mana cost. So the old idea used to be that you put a counterspell under there, and then you get to Isochron Scepter, all of your opponent's threats that matter for the rest of the game, unless they can double spell in a turn. Or it used to be that you put something like an Orum's Chant under it. This deck is playing Angel's Grace in that spot, so it has split second, so it can't be countered either. You can't lose the game this turn, and your opponents can't win the game this turn. Until end of turn, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. So you go and you do this, and then all of a sudden, all the big dumb creatures that your opponents have don't matter anymore because you can just cast Angel's Grace on their turn every turn for 2 mana, and then you infinitely fog. Now, this deck has a couple of really cute things in it. It has Stifle, which can theoretically be an engine on Isochron Scepter, right? Just repeatedly stifle all of your lands. That's kind of cute. It also has Surgical Extraction for the same reason. How funny is it if you go and counter their Uro and then you surgical it? But Surgical's under the Scepter, so then you surgical their Brainstorms and their Ponders, and then they play another threat and you surgical that, and you just make it so that their deck has nothing of relevance left anymore. I appreciate that. It's sort of hijinks. Now, what is there that holds this deck together? Spellseeker is the answer. When it enters the battlefield, you can search your library for an instant or sorcery card with CMC 2 or less, reveal it, and put it into your hand. So the idea is that you can find one-ofs, like Angel's Grace, Disenchant, Into the Royal, Stifle, Surgical Extraction. And so you don't just have to put something like a Brainstorm or a Ponder under Isochron Scepter. You can go and put something juicy under there and then get sick value out of it each turn. I am looking forward to trying that out. The sideboard notably has a Holy Day, which is the white fog, and then a bunch of traditional blue stuff. So I think the biggest question for this league is probably going to be are we going to be able to beat the Uro decks? We have Source the Plowshares, we can exile it. Is the card advantage that they possess going to be better than our card advantage from Isochron Scepter? Unclear. Their card advantage is probably easier. Our card advantage is cooler, and that counts for something. So I'm definitely going to be worried about can we beat the Uro decks? The other thing I'm curious about is do we have enough removal? Do we have enough removal that Isochron Scepter counts as removal? Because we don't have things like Supreme Verdicts that sometimes these decks play to really help out with the creature matchups. So we'll see how this feels. So little known fact, I did used to play Miracles, and my first SCG event that I cashed was actually with Miracles. So let's throw back to some of my old roots here and see how this goes. YouTube folks, please throw me a like here if you've been enjoying the Legacy content. I really do appreciate it, and let's see how this one fares. Okay, I've kept my opening hand here, which is maybe unexciting. There's not a lot objectively going on here, but we have a bunch of lands here and some blue cards. All right. Want to get stifled this turn? I don't really want to get stifled this turn, but I have 4 lands. I think I'm good with that. I think I'd rather have my opponent use a stifle than a wasteland this turn. I think I'm good with this. Force of Will was very specifically one of the cards that I wanted to have access to. Our opponent is playing some combo deck, like Doomsday or something like that. I really just want to have that early interaction. I think it's more likely that we're playing against some sort of bug control deck since our opponent hasn't done anything on turns 1 and 2. But you never know. This is going to fetch a basic plains, and I think I'm good with fetching that right at my opponent's end step. I don't want to draw the basic island that's below this. We're in bug colors. That's confirmed. Leovold? Oh, it is Doomsday. I think I fire off the Force of Will here. All right, so they're the Days version. So on my turn, I can Spell Seeker for Surgical Extraction and mess with their order. I can also Spell Seeker for Stifle, which gives them a turn. Like they'll have the chance to untap without me mucking with them. But if they can't just win immediately next turn, that's pretty good for me. All right, there's 1 Force of Will, 2 Force of Will, 3 Force of Will, 4 Force of Will. So there's a Thassa's Oracle in there. There's probably a Cavern of Souls in there. Do I want basic planes? Do I need white for anything that's relevant? I don't need white for anything that's relevant, so I'm just going to grab another island. Yeah, I'm going to hope that they don't try to win next turn and that they're trying to win slightly more slowly than that. And I'm going to go for Spellseeker. My opponent can... My opponent have a Daze 1. 2 Dazes there. Oh, that's not great for me. I think our play was forced, though. I don't think I just get to, like, pass the turn. There's too many times where my opponent has the possibility of winning. Now, notably here, this is a Bayou, right? So Bayou doesn't work towards casting Thassa's Oracle. And so they've made their land drop for the turn. That means I can't Cavern this turn. Jace Fate Seal them, mess with the order. I think that's better than just, like, land pass. I do wish that I had not fetched in my previous turn cycle, so that I could, like, put Force of Will on top of Library. I'm gonna put that on the bottom. Like, there's some chance that that messes with them. Very little. Like, we were hoping to, like, that the Oracle was on top or something like that. Multiple Street Wraiths left. Yep, and that's uncounterable. So the Swords of Plowshares wouldn't have done anything with their library on 0 cards there. We couldn't quite get there. The Spellseeker for the Stifle would have been pretty good, and it's going to be nice to have access to that line later on. Alright. I would like these counterspells. I would like the Surgicals. I probably want the Flusterstorms. Assume that I bring in all of those. Alright, what don't I want? I don't want Terminus. I probably don't want Swords to Plowshares. Like, it can do some things in some corner case scenarios, but I don't know that I want it. The biggest reason to keep Swords to Plowshares is just for, like, an Uro. And, like, I did see an Uro from my opponent. So maybe I can't get rid of all of them. Angel's Grace, I guess, yeah, so my opponent can win the game, but if I can't lose the game, it doesn't end. Is that correct? I haven't had to think about those sorts of interactions in a very long time. Hmm. Is this also just, like, too clunky? Alright, I don't want that. Fairy's fine, Narset's fine, Spellseekers are fine, Ace is fine, Mentor's actively good. Into the Royal, it's maybe not what I need. I need 2 cuts. 3 surgical, too many. What I'm looking to do is, like, counter a Doomsday and then extract it. Maybe 3 is too many. If I go 3 and then cut Angel's Grace, that's probably okay. Let's plan on this, and I'm just going to do some Googling of rules real quick. Okay, I've kept a pretty reasonable hand here. I'm just going to play Mystic Sanctuary tapped on turn 1. My opponent has, like, Land, Dark Ritual, Doomsday, Daze. They have all of that. I will just accept that punishment. But otherwise, like, I just want to get that tapped land out of the way now. That's fantastic. Alright. I have a lot of counterspell action. I am countering this spell mostly to hide the information about my hand. I don't want my opponent to know what I have. So they're going to look for a Daze here. If we get dazed, that's fine. Like, we take a couple of 1-for-1 trades and we made our opponent use a Brainstorm in an awkward way. If we don't get dazed here, great, because then Force of Negation can just be hard cast. Next turn, Flooded Strand can get a Mystic Sanctuary and return Counterspell to the top of my deck if that's something that I want to do. Hardcasting Force of Negation against a known Daze deck is also a little odd. Our opponent didn't have the Daze last turn, so... see how things go now. We grabbing Stifle? I think I'm just grabbing Stifle. I'll take a quick look to see if there's anything I want more. Like, Flusterstorm's kind of appealing, but Stifle's pretty hot. That's just one of those things that if I force my opponent to make Doomsday piles with that in mind, that's pretty cool. Like, currently, I would probably let a Doomsday resolve and just try to fight against it with Stifle and triple-ish counterspell. We could give our opponent a 6/6 here. That is an option that we have available to us. I don't think I want counterspell to hand. I think I'll just take a random draw. Good God. Am I comfortable tapping out for Jace? One, two, three, four. A land could be 5, and then I have to force a will and Uro. I think I'm comfortable doing this. But I don't think I fight over it if it gets dazed. Yeah. That's fine. Like, I have many planeswalkers, and I have a great set of tools. I'm good with things where things are at in this turn cycle. Also, if we get the dazes out of here now, one more thing that I don't need to be worrying about later on. Great. We have averted disaster for now. We do still have to deal with that long term. We have a bunch of surgicals in the deck, though. Like, we can find one. Or we can just keep finding counter magic. I have 2 surgical extractions that I want to find for Uro, as well as 2 Swords of Plowshares, as well as 2 Swords of Plowshares. Do I fight? My opponent still has 5 cards. I probably fight. I swear I have cantrips in this deck. They're here. Whether or not I hardcast Force of Will is a little wonky. Because days. Run it back. Or just say, like, opponent, can you beat my Stifle? Plus Force of Will. I don't feel amazing about my position. I'm going to go ahead and attempt a counter. Now I think I'm going to let that resolve. And I'm going to try to beat the Thassa's Oracle with Stifle. If I draw a blue card so that I have, like, Force of Will plus Stifle, I'll feel pretty good about things. Alright, so they're taking a Street Wraith. Oh, a couple of Carpet Flowers in there. Alright, so they have an Oracle and a Street Wraith for sure. I think 2 Street Wraiths. The Edge of Autumn, yep. Oh, you're just gonna try to go while I'm tapped out and just hope that I don't have another Force of Will? This is a really fucking savage days if they have it. Go Spellseeker. I choose you. Alright, do you have a second Oracle? I would like to find Surgical Extraction for Oracle. Jace do anything? Jace doesn't really do anything. I'm gonna go ahead and shuffle and try to look for a cantrip. This counts as a cantrip. Let's use this to find Surgical. Please. Do it in my opponent's upkeep, I guess. Nice. That was a great example of knowing exactly what sort of thing I might need to beat and playing appropriately. Now, if I was 100% playing in the tightest possible way, I would have also taken a screenshot of the opponent's deck, but there's only so many things you can juggle while you're streaming. All right, so the next question becomes, do I want to do anything else about that Uro? Or do I want to try to bring in back to basics to choke my opponent from that angle? I think the answer is no. I'm good with things as they stand currently. But it's possible I have, just a couple too many counter spells, and having a few more pieces of interaction for Uro is good. But I think I'm going to call this okay. Brian always says, one land ponder, that's a keep. I really want another land here, but I'm probably not supposed to pitch this hand. Alright, you get information. I assume I lose Force of Will. Depending on what my opponent's hand looks like, though, they could just take Ponder. I think I am supposed to Ponder and try to set up the lands. It makes me worse against Days, but... I think I'm going to go any order there and just shuffle. I really want the land. And if I take the Ponder, I'm already going to be, like, drawing one card that I don't super want, and the Ponder's effect is going to be dampened. I think that, like, the shuffle there is good. I could sit down and look at the math for it later, though. Yeah, that's fine. That's not a real clock. Like, we care about the Uro, we don't care about the Baleful Strix. Alright. New Ponder it is. Island. Oh, man. Island. And then I miss land drops for 2 turns. Alright. I accept this. I am not happy with this, but I accept this. I can put an Isochron Scepter under a counter, or I can put a counter spell under an Isochron Scepter, and that's worth something. I am pretty confident that I'll win the game if I do make it to 3 mana. I think the next 2 turns are the most dangerous turns of the game, and then I get, like, Spellseeker to help refuel, I get Narset to dig. Like, there's good stuff coming. I just have to, like, fade Doomsday with, like, Veil of Summer or Thoughtseize, just back up or something. If I didn't know the top card of my deck was dead, I would just hold up Counterspell here, I think. But because I know I have another dead card incoming, I think I need to do this here. Yeah, and that's fine. That's one Counterspell that's not protecting their combo, right? And then next turn I can hold up Counterspell and Force of Negation. I have to fight over the Doomsday if my opponent casts it, because I am not really in a situation where I can use my resources well currently. I'm gonna sit here for a minute like I'm thinking about that. And then that resolves. I need the card that's under my Swords to Plowshares to be good. I'm not sure if land is going to be good enough. Like, the Narset was going to be great against, like, the Street Wraiths and the Edge of Autumns. And now it's not. Just because, like, I've missed my land drops. And that's okay. Like, sometimes you miss, right? So we had 2 ponders to look for lands. And that second ponder was a little bit dicey. Maybe it should have been a shuffle, but I think if I miss the land drop, if I miss land drop 2, and then like Counterspell isn't live, Isochron Scepter isn't live, I think that puts me in a pretty bad place overall. Alright, my opponent has resolved their pile. I'll take 1 from their little Baleful Strix. The Street Wraith and Edge of Autumn are in exile, so they're not in deck. We've got other things to play around here now. I assume that my opponent is probably going to try to win this over a couple of turns and, like, test the waters with a discard spell or something. In which case I have to counterspell that. Okay. So, how do I win? Narsa can stop cycling. My opponent doesn't have a Brainstorm. Oh, so my opponent might be trying to win this with Devotion, and they might be trying to keep their Baleful Strix around for that extra point of Devotion. That's interesting. It could just hold up Counterspell plus Swords to Plowshares in this turn, rather than tapping out for Spellseeker to get Stifle. I don't know how quickly my opponent has built their pile. Like, if my opponent's pile is built to win next turn, then Spellseeker kills me. My opponent's pile is built to win much later, then, like, Narset or Spellseeker is very good here. The issue is, if I pass and they don't do anything with their turn, they get closer to winning, and I get further away from winning. I think I'm just going to pass this turn, but I don't know if it's right. I don't have a lot of experience playing blue decks versus Doomsday. I have plenty of experience against Doomsday, but I'm usually reliant on permanent-based hate. Yeah, so this was the problem with the line that I took. If they just do that, it's not good for me. Like, I fall a little bit further behind. Am I committed now? Probably committed now. Like, last turn was the turn where I can probably, like, potentially risk it for Narset or Spellseeker. But I don't know that this turn is the same way. That has to get counterspelled, unfortunately. That's a Force of Will. So, I think that means that my opponent's got this. They take Swords to Plowshares, and that paves the way for Thassa's Oracle to win, and Swordsing Baleful Strix doesn't change that. That just gives them another point of life to work with. Yep. All right. They had it. All right. GG's opponent. Well played. Maybe I should have tapped out for the Spell Seeker. Like maybe my position doesn't get better unless I do that. But if they built a faster pile, I just die. So hard to tell. Let me know in the comments what you think about that one in particular. Okay, my mulligan decision here is pretty darn difficult. I'm playing against TES, almost certainly, and I have some cards that do unique things in the matchup, but I'm really worried that if I just get Brainstorm locked, I just lose 100% of the time. I think I'm going to mulligan this one. I like that. Oh, the one of Surgical, huh? That's interesting. This hand is going to be a keep, and I'll bottom the Swords to Plowshares. Excuse me? Oh. I was not expecting this. Hmm. Alright. Resolves. This surgical extraction is now very awkward. Hmm. This Jace is something I probably want long term. I can take 2 of these 3 cards. Like, I could take the Isochron Scepter and the Jace. They don't... Like, Isochron Scepter doesn't really do anything now. It's kind of cute, though. I think since I already have my land drops, I can get away with trying to do the cute thing here. The only awkward thing here is that if my opponent does something that's good enough that I have to force a will, I don't have anything good to put under Isochron Scepter. We going? All right. This is weird. All right, we have bounce spells for days. Protection from blue is definitely relevant here. But, like, that Scourge Ranger is not worth a Chase the Mind Sculptor. Green Sun for Questing Beast? I don't really want to force this. But this could be a Rex Sage or Knight of Autumn that blows up Isochron Scepter. Alright. I will ponder. Brainstorm means I can get rid of Surgical, but it's actually very awkward for this next turn cycle, so I think I'm just going to go ahead and shuffle this. Bit greedy. I don't want 2 of these. That I don't mind. Although the Pro Blue definitely is relevant here. by Green Suns. Oh man, the Knight of Autumn was in hand, or was the draw for turn? That's really awkward. Alright. Grab a screenshot of this. Alright, what's the wording on Into the Royal? Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. I'm going to take a hit for 2 here. Because I can bounce my Scepter in response to a Knight of Autumn. Which is not the best, but, like, it's a thing that can happen. I'll take that back. I can't really use it right now. But it's fine for later. Alright, this Teferi is not the best. Game's so different if I have a Swords to Plowshares. Returning this Knight of Autumn isn't great because it'll come back down as a larger creature, so I'm just going to bounce the Noble Hierarch. Then this has protection from blue. Yeah, okay, that's our turn. We're definitely getting punished for doing the cute thing here, instead of this just being like another removal spell or another piece of interaction of some kind. We'll see if I can recover from this. Position is not the best as a whole. Opponent does have 2 Stone Forges, or a Battle Skull and a Sword of Fire and Ice and a Jete. Does not appear that they have any other colors. Alright. Alright, Brainstorm, you gotta be good. Spellseeker can get Swords to Plowshares, which can answer Knight. That's a start. In order to do that, I have to keep Mystic Sanctuary, which is going to get wastelanded. That's a little unfortunate. Alright, is there any of this stuff I want to put back in the deck? I think I'm fine with drawing a Ponder. Toss that back in there. Alright, hopefully, like, we can maybe trade with Knight of Autumn, or, like, stare down Knight of Autumn or something, and not take that much damage. I'm going to assume that I just get wastelanded, and I end up back down on 4 mana. I hit for 2 a turn as of right now. Ah, okay, that's my opponent's line. That's pretty good. This is probably a chump then. And now I don't have a sweeper, right? Like, I don't have a Supreme Verdict. Do I have 2 Terminus? Sorry, I started playing this league yesterday. What are my outs? Alright, I have 2 Terminus. Oh, that's not good. Did not naturally miracle Terminus. Yep, this does not immediately impact the board. I die. I'll want a Path to Exile. I'll probably play Rest in Peace. My opponent has an okay number of non-basics, but I don't think I want to play back to basics actively. Um, and Isochron Scepter, just a little rough since I have like Tutorable Knight of Autumn. But I don't get to pivot out of that, I don't think. So, like, I don't want to play Surgical. I know that for sure. If I play a second Angel's Grace to try to get that combo more consistently. Unsure. Narset's not great. Narset is kind of a weird cantrip. I'm really looking to win this game with, like, Mentor. Really just Mentor. And, like, I thought that card wasn't restricted. I thought we were allowed to play 4. This is Legacy, not Vintage. I think Mentor is just going to be one of our best tools if we can find it. That's how I expect to win a lot of games. I guess the question now is, like, do I want to mess around with this Stifle? Do I want more counter spells? I don't think I want to mess around with the Stifle. Like, it can do things. But I think this is my plan, and it'll just make my Mystic Sanctuary for Terminus slightly more awkward. Like, I have a little bit less removal than a normal blue-white control deck does, so while I think normally I can just, like, totally ignore the size of a Knight of the Reliquary, I don't know that I get to do that here without, like, a full playset of Terminus or, like, multiple Path to Exiles in the sideboard. Okay, let's go down one of those. I don't have a main deck Force of Negation. Let's try this. Not feeling super confident here. Alright, I guess I keep this. I think the issue here, though, is, like, I want to counterspell on turn 2, but I also want to play Isochron Scepter on turn 2, and I don't get it both ways. Yeah, like, if I tap out for Isochron Scepter and then my fuck, and then my opponent just plays Knight, that's super awkward. I still think I go for it, but not feel good. Also, if my opponent has like a sideboard disenchant or council judgment or something in their hand here, it's so good. It's so disgustingly good. I don't know. There's also an alternate world where I just like hold up counterspell for their 3 mana play, and then counter it, Spell Seeker for Swords of Plowshares, put Swords of Plowshares under the Isochron Scepter, Bob's your uncle. Oh. That's fair. And also quite good. Fuck me. Alright. Super punished for not playing Plains. I also telegraphed that I had the Terminus since I stopped in my draw step, which is also unfortunate. There's a waiting to pay costs here, so this seems like maybe a green sun. It is indeed a green sun. Yeah, that's a shame, because I was going to have, like, yield engine online. I guess I have to exile them on Sanctum Prelate now, and then put Swords to Plowshares under Isochron Scepter. Actually, no, maybe it's the other way around, because, like, they're going to run out of basics real quickly, right? Yeah, it's probably the other way around. Now, as long as, our opponent doesn't have another one of those from the sideboard, or a Council's Judgment, maybe, we'll get to start grinding some value with the Isochron Scepter. Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to try to save the Spellseeker to block a hit from a larger creature if possible. Alright, there's a lot of stuff going on over there. Man, I really wish I had played Plains earlier. Alright. Sword costs 4 mana currently. So Stoneforge cheats on quite a bit of mana. The Thalia is the card that I'm most concerned with. um, okay, I guess I'm letting my opponent cheat on mana, and then I work on dismantling the creatures. Like, I just play Path to Exile every single turn. I am really feeling the card disadvantage of Scepter, though. Like, right now, a lot of the fire design cards either have an immediate impact, or yeah, I guess let's just take this opportunity to do this. Anyway, a lot of the fire design cards right now, like Uro or Plague Engineer, either have an immediate effect when you play them of some kind, like a trigger that draws a card or something of that nature. Yeah, that's fine. That's expected. Oh, that's not good for me. I dislike that quite a bit. That's a great draw. I need to answer the mom now, though. And Isochron Scepter doesn't get any value when you play it, and it requires you to give up a card beyond just that. Dead in 2 turns, 2 current clock. Maybe I should have taken a Spellseeker chump earlier for a couple of points of life. Oh, looks like I still get a chump now. I can disenchant the sword next turn. Oh god, is there more? I don't know that I can deal with more. Oh, I'm dead. Yeah, like I can activate the Isochron Scepter. I can destroy. Well, I can destroy the sword, or I can destroy the choke. If I destroy the sword, I take 2, 4, 5, and I'm dead. If I destroy the choke, I have a moral victory on the way out, though. We're taking out the choke. No, can't even take out the choke. All right, stupid Thalia. GG's. All right, I'll be keeping this hand. Playing against Jacob is boss. See how they do. Ooh, Cavern. Interesting. So probably the Elvish Reclaimer deck. Guess let's hold up a Stifle. I was really hoping to draw something like a Cantrip in the first turn, give this hand some stability. Ooh. Alright, we're not going to be stifling that trigger, I don't think. I don't think that's worth a card. Maybe I'm wrong. Alright. Here we go. We're going to put Swords to Plowshares under that. We'll be better suited to deal with the multiple creatures that our opponent can have. Oracle! Oracle is cool. Oh, jeez. That was a good Oracle. One has 5 lands. Oracle can give them more lands. Once Upon a Time can give them a shuffle. I don't really want to Swords to Plowshares this turn. I want to play Mentor this turn and just get my clock going. But I think Field of the Dead is too scary if I leave Oracle in play. Oh no. I guess I can stifle that trigger. These arrows are low-key gonna come back later and be pretty good. Alright. I believe it is time to just floop a Mentor into play. I don't need white for anything, right? I guess technically hardcasting Terminus is a thing. But otherwise, I don't need white. Okay. I could get white, though. I could get white and leave up Misty instead. Let's do that. Even though I do have pretty heavy blue requirements. Baby heart attack there for a second. Where I thought I didn't have a second snow-covered plains. Cavern's Clutch. Get him, Stifle. Alright. Oh, there's more. Am I Force of Willing that? I might just be Force of Willing that. Mostly for clock-based reasons. Like, I need to get this game over. If I draw a land, I can Narse it, but I think Jace is just the better card. Okay, so I need to click it this way first. Use this, yes. Swords of Plowshares. Target the Titan. Put this stuff on the stack. Crash in. I wonder if I can almost remove my opponent's creatures as fast as they can make them. I'm not sure about that. God, again? Green Sun for prime time. That's pretty good. More Field of the Dead is bad. That card's real good versus the blue control decks. When I kept Jace, I was really hoping that I would be able to, like, take a turn off from activating Isochron Scepter in order to play Jace. But maybe I was just, like, wrong in doing so, and I should have kept the Narset. Ooh. Blast Zone's pretty good. Well, that's not bad either, I suppose. Giving my opponent a lot of life. Are we aggro? Yeah, I think I'm aggro. Specifically, bouncing one of these here means that the Mentor can't be double blocked. Three, four, five. I have 6 different things with prowess, so a Swords to Plowshares off this is worth 6 damage. And a little bit later, I can also get cheeky and Swords to Plowshares my own creatures for a little bit of life. Primeval Titan's a little rough. There's also this Uro from the graveyard that I need to be thinking about for a bit later. Maybe now. Now. Trade or chump? I think I'll trade. My monks are more valuable than his zombies. But I don't know that I want to chump. Well, do I want to brainstorm this turn? Or do I want to bounce a zombie? I think I'll brainstorm this turn. Spells are really good right now. Spell Seeker. That could find me an Angel's Grace. And I could try to find another Isochron Scepter, and then I can never lose to the zombies. Alright. How many basics do I have? 5 basics. I have my basics. So let's put back Prismatic Vista. Actually, let's put back Flooded Strand too. Then I can Spell Seeker and shuffle away both lands. Is this the plan? Is this how I actually win? This might be how I actually win. Mentor, getting in, putting in some reasonable hours. Mentor could be double blocked this turn by my opponent fetching. And I don't like that. So let's just swing in with those. Make sure I remember all the text on this. You can't lose the game. Opponents can't win the game. Damage reduces life total to 1. Okay. Alright, we have gotten a concession there. Nice. I do not expect to win game 1 versus this deck, if I'm being honest. Okay, so I need to deal with Uro, and I have to decide how I am going to deal with Uro. Is it Surgical and Rest in Peace? Is it one of the two? Into the Royal doesn't feel particularly great. Disenchant will sometimes do things, but that doesn't feel particularly great. Back to Basics feels great. I want that. Rip and Surgical do different things here. I definitely want Path. So Rip shuts off Uro. It also shrinks Elvish Reclaimer. It keeps it to the 1/2 status. And both of those things are good. The issue is, like, how much better is it to have access to Mystic Sanctuary? Don't think I like the Stifle. How much does the 2 life matter? Some. It matters some. They can't pay that cost. Counterspells are also a little bit medium because my opponent has Cavern of Souls. I really don't know how I feel about these graveyard cards here. This leave one surgical so I can Spellseeker for it. And then maybe just drop down one Planeswalker. I could also see dropping down one Terminus. Like, I really just want the, like, straight efficient 1-mana removal here. This hand's unexciting, but fine. Like, we have, an answer to a creature. We have a cantrip. We have a Teferi that is now probably bouncing on Mox Diamond in 2 turns. Don't mind that. I wonder if my opponent has something to go with that Mox Diamond currently. That does seem like the sort of thing that you could probably realistically wait on. Just set up the Isochron Scepter thing again. Mana's a little awkward here for Counterspell specifically. I think this is fine, though. I draw the Counterspell thinking that I'm going to pitch it to Force of Will. Oh, no. No, 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 no. That does not get to happen. That card's good. I know I've said this like every time Carpet of Flowers hits play, but I think that's just the best sideboard card in the format. Even if I fetch basic planes with this, that 1 mana is my opponent getting a Primeval Titan 1 turn sooner than I want them to. Fetching planes here is very awkward because of Mystic Sanctuary. And like, there's probably even an argument that I should just play tap Mystic Sanctuary this turn so I can curve directly into Teferi the following turn to try to bounce the Mox Diamond. Yep, that's fine. Like, my opponent will get some clues out of this Tireless Tracker. I accept this. Oh, that's quite good. Path Tireless Tracker in their upkeep. Play Teferi next turn. Just get the Mystic Sanctuary into play tapped this turn cycle. I think I'm good with that. Oh, nice. Well, sort of. This is weird, right? So I can keep them off a clue, but give them a mana for their turn. I think I want to keep them off that clue. It's possible, like, that gives them the mana they need to Primeval Titan this turn, and that was a bait. But it's also possible that they just made an error in not fetching preemptively while it was still safe to do so. Ooh, I don't like that timing. I think they're supposed to crack the clue first if that's something that they want to do. Okay. That's fine. I didn't want to let them go to their turn in case there's any sort of funny business. Like, the Dryad is a powerful enough card that I need to be careful. I think I value the Teferi more highly than the Spellseeker here. It's close. Land now. Land later. Fetch now? Probably fetch now. Just don't leave myself in a position where I don't have the Isochron Scepter up. I think that's worth giving up a little bit of equity off a cantrip later. Matter if I do this now or later? I don't think so, but I think I'm 100% doing it. I don't think my opponent's going to have a third basic. But if they get Field of the Dead and then I path afterwards and they do have the third basic, they get an extra zombie out of it. So there's a reason to do it ahead of time. Not the best. Don't get a lot of time to beat this Field of the Dead. The second copy of Isochron Scepter in a game feels rough. How many of these? Oh, only one of those is going out to Fairy. This one is going out to Fairy. Let's save my walker. Means that I don't have Force of Will available. But I don't think I'm going to beat another Haymaker from my opponent. I think I am barely going to be able to beat Field of the Dead. And there's no guarantee that I can actually do that either. If I don't take out the... That plus Caracas is going to be dirty, by the way, in conjunction with Field of the Dead. Anyway, finishing the thought. Nope, I don't remember what the thought was. I don't take out the... Oh, that's very good, too. Alright, my opponent is going to tick up Blast Zone. Means that I will get to Path to Exile a zombie token, and that's it. And then the Uro is going to be uncounterable. Okay. So grabbing a Terminus would be sick and all, But my opponent is going to, like, be able to bounce the Uro, so I can't really permanently get rid of it right now. I think I am on the path to destruction here. Uro plus Field of the Dead is a strong combo. I missed something? My opponent. Oh, okay. There's the other one. There's just a little bit of a visual lag there. I was gonna say I thought my opponent should have 2 zombies. All right, my opponent is not messing around when it comes to the Teferi now. That is understandable. All right, I can Spellseeker for Swords to Plowshares. Put it under not cast it this turn. I need to cast it this turn. I'm still basically gonna die though, right? Like I Spellseeker, I get Swords of Plowshares, I do Uro, I take 8 damage, I go to 3. I don't think I come back from that. I'm gonna go ahead and throw in the towel here. Like I can wiggle a bit, but I'm not getting both through Field of the Dead and Uro. All right. How do I feel about Rest in Peace versus Surgical now? A little unclear still. I think I want about 3 answers to it. One of which is tutorable, so that actually increases the effective number of copies I have. Oh, sorry, effective number of ways I have to actually answer an Uro. Maybe on the play, the Narset is fine. Like, maybe on the play, I go, like, keep one Narset in and junk one Isochron Scepter. They don't know that 4 is the right number of Isochron Scepters. Because drawing the second is bad. Blast Zone on 2 is going to be so good against me this game. Alright. This time that happens. I'm going to preemptively play out the Rest in Peace. Uro cometh soonish, probably. Don't have a target for my Isochron Scepter yet. And I really don't want to pitch the Spellseeker. The Spellseeker gives me a target for Isochron Scepter. Scout, Tireless Tracker? Human Scout. I mean, that's good with bonus mana. Grab a Plains here. Could actually just grab Path to Exile. I'm putting it under Isochron Scepter anyway. Every path after the first one is just actively good. My opponent's going to have a bunch of mana anyway. I will go ahead and do that. Damage report. I think Spellseeker will just jump in front of the bus for 4 life this turn. Alright. Upkeep fine. Upkeep might be fine. I know they have the second basic. So the swords, I do it now. Oh, Force of Vigor. Oh god. That is rough. That is a big loss for me, because now, like, Uro is turned back on as well, when I had previously had that answered. It's pretty rare that... Oh, geez. Pretty rare that your control deck, like, super, super cares about a disenchant effect, but that was very potent. Seems good. I'll need to rip an answer to primetime off the top. Terminus, I suppose, would be preferred, so that it also answers the Dryad. Fair. Interesting here. Is my opponent's sequencing correct? Where they chose to play the Cavernous Souls afterwards in order to represent lethal, but then that opens the Primeval Titan up to a piece of counter magic? I don't know what their last card is, but if I were in their position and I didn't have another land in hand, I might have cracked the clue to draw a card and then make my decision once I have that other card. Yeah, I don't know. That would be one I'd have to, like, really sit down and think about, because, like, killing the opponent now is good, but is that actually a better line than playing more safely and just doing a lot of damage this turn? Excuse me? Excuse me? I thought the companions were gone. So if we're playing against some sort of Turbo Gyruda deck, I probably need the Force of Will, right? But this is so many lands, and, like, I have nothing other than the Force of Will. How much interaction do I have versus this deck? Swords, Stifle, Counterspell is slowish but good. Force, I don't have Force of Negations main deck, although that might not be great. I don't know about this keep. Like, I just don't know what this deck is going to look like, because so few people are trying this out now that the companion rule has changed. Oh man. We're gonna work towards a bunch of islands so Mystic Sanctuary can enter untapped. Am I dealing with, like, a Bomberman hybrid deck? Sure. Feels like maybe. So this is a single trigger. I don't get priority in the middle of this. So I can't just like easily disrupt things with a surgical extraction. So I think I'm gonna go grab swords to plowshares here. The other thing I could do is just grab the Angel's Grace and go for more of a lockout based thing. Yeah, I'm gonna grab the swords to plowshares. There's some chance that I can just control two creatures that get into play or something like that. The Gyruda decks are not necessarily a deterministic combo. And by that, I mean when they start going off, they don't win 100% of the time, right? Box Opal not turned on yet. Maybe I'm not supposed to Spellseeker last turn. Maybe I'm supposed to just Ponder last turn and then save Spellseeker for when I'm on 4 mana. So I can hold up Swords of Plowshares if I get it, or I have one more turn to decide whether or not I want something like an Angel's Grace. Oh no, that doesn't get to happen. I think I Force Pitch Force. Right. Only as instants, so I can't put Ponder under this. Isochron Scepter is also very awkward in the face of Karn. I feel about Counterspell. I don't think I want all three of these cards because I have no ability to shuffle. Like, I don't think I Isochron Scepter Swords to Plowshare specifically because of another Karn. This is terribly awkward though. Mm-hmm. Not great. Not great. The mana here is scarier to me than the construct, but both are scary. I think I'm going down this game. Like that guy Ruta is just hanging out in the command zone, so to speak, waiting to prey upon me. I'll be looking for Teferi to bounce the Chalice. Can't destroy the Chalice now. I need to remember Welding Jar. Like, that's a very important card here. Well, I guess I don't destroy things very many ways. 5? Oh. So my opponent just has 11 power in play, huh? Terminus? Terminus would be cool. That's not Terminus. Yeah, my opponent didn't even get to their companion. So it seems like they're not a like Garuda all-in combo deck. It seems like they're more on the value of like I am a colorless stompy deck that occasionally can get a sick amount of value from Garuda for relatively little cost. Now I'm in trouble because even if I like Terminus away both of these, like my opponent can have an uncounterable Garuda. I think this is the point where I take a draw and then I concede. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. My opponent can put it into their hand this turn, cast it following turn. Yep. And that's what I'm looking at here. Realistically, I don't think I have outs with Narset. Like, I can Narset into Teferi, bounce the construct, take 5, go to 1, but then I think my opponent just has too much value left in play. Alright. I like Into the Royal. I don't think I like Surgical. Doesn't quite do what I want it to do. Don't think I quite like Stifle. Again, like, we need to respect the Chalice of the Voids. I guess I don't get more answers to that, huh? I have a Disenchant and an Into the Royal, and a Teferi. I have 3 answers. Okay, that's not the end of the world. Assume getting the bodies out of the way is good. Do I rest in peace? Okay, Root is still a 6/6. My opponent is just playing things like Urza and Chalice that I also need to answer, and rest in peace is kind of awkward versus some of that. I mean, so he's bringing another 1-drop. Maybe let's it's lockout potential, though. Isochron Scepters are also really weird versus Karn. Go down on one of those. Play the back to basics. And I think in respect of Karn, I need to play at least 1 Force of Negation, if not 2. Maybe let's just go down 1 Spellseeker, assuming that's cuttable. No, this does not have a stable mana. I mean... So, one thing that I'm definitely noticing is that, like, I have these Isochron Scepters in my deck, right? And they're a card that requires another card. And so every time I mulligan and I keep an Isochron Scepter in hand, it feels incredibly awkward because I'm going down another card to try to generate this value. All right, we're going old school here. I have Counterspell under Isochron Scepter. Plus, I have Force of Will. So on the stack, I'm okay. It's when like a Cavern of Souls flips down that I start to have like things that I need to worry about. All right. I'll cast that and try to hit a land drop. I need to work towards Jace. Cards are all very good, though. Like, I'm not going to shuffle them away. Oh, I guess if I use Isochron Scepter, that was a poor way to do that. Should have kept the Jace in my hand. So now I don't want to counterspell this turn. Oh yeah, I messed that up. Yeah, I was just so happy with what I had that I didn't really give it too much thought. Alright. We play Yield Draw Go, and my opponent did put the Gyruda into their hand. Yes. Counterspell, Karn. Fair. Also. No. And I'll take this Ponder back. Fine with this? I think I'm fine with this over 2 turns. It's not the land I want. But it's inevitability. I don't want to Isochron Scepter this turn if possible. That's all for colorless. Alright, I have to fetch there. That cannot hit play. That's just too spooky. So my opponent either has another counterspell or they have something else to do afterwards. Yeah, multiple Dovin's vetoes. Alright. I also had to shuffle away my second Isochron Scepters there for Angel's Grace. Not the best for me. And my opponent gets a lot of filtering. I hold up counterspell. But like a card that matters is already in play. And a bunch of the things like the Gyruda, the Urza are now uncounterable. Isochron Scepter plus Counterspell ain't what it used to be, yo. I mean, if you have the third Dovin's veto, I think I'm obligated to just, like, concede out of respect. Am I just gonna get, like, choked here? Ah. So Isochron Scepter is off. I don't have my 4th land for Jace. A bunch of my cards are useless. Uh, that's the Walking Ballista to just get it off the top of the library there. Karn not activate? Karn did not activate yet. I just lose to Lattice next turn. Handily. A Sorceress Spyglass. I'm not sure. Well, I guess that shuts off some Planeswalkers. Actively dead? I can Spellseeker for something that can answer a Lattice, but then I can't actually cast it. I guess I need to Jace and Brainstorm and hit a Force of Will or Force of Negation in order to stay in this game. Oh, I did not do that. I very much did not do that. Feels like GG. I may or may not die this turn. But I think my opponent just goes to go Sorcerer Spyglass, then defeat me. And we might not even need to yet. Like, they also just have a great line of, like, Karn plus on Forge, attack, kill Jace this turn. But I assume, like, once my opponent sees my hand, I just get Lattice locked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana remaining. Yeah. But do I just concede now? Save them the 30 seconds? I guess there's a chance that they don't have, Mycosynth Lattice. Alright, I'm going to concede to the Auriok Salvagers combo. So the way this works, in case you're not familiar... Yep. I'm just gonna concede, and then I'll explain. So the way this works, in case you're not familiar, is that with Lion's Eye Diamond in play, you sacrifice LED, and then you get 3 white mana. You use 2 of it to return LED, which nets you mana. So each time you do that, you get 1 mana. And there's a Walking Ballista in the graveyard, so then my opponent could laser me down. I expected Isochron Scepter to be good in this matchup, but my opponent had a bunch of Dovin's Vetoes and Karns to go and shut it off as well as just multiple Cavernous Souls, so it wasn't nearly as good as I was expecting. So have you ever looked at an opening hand and just gone like, what the hell am I doing with my life? That's this hand. Like, we have the one of Monastery Mentor, which is like awesome and a reason to keep a hand, but the supporting cast here isn't great. Right? Like, I don't have great early plays, and once I get the Mentor into play, I don't actually have just, like, cantrips to, like, fire off. I think I have to mulligan this hand. Oh! I probably keep this on 6, but... Uh... Uh... This ain't great. You first? That way this can get basic planes, so I can source the Plowshares if my opponent, like, fetches a Dryad Arbor. Oh. Upkeep fetch. Maybe red black reanimator. Nope. Loam. White Jund. Take the 1-for-1. I think I'll take the 1-for-1 here. I am drawing a lot of the one-ofs here. Like Surgical and Angel's Grace and Into the Royal in the original opening hand. Now like the Disenchant as well. Black, red, green. Holy shit. Okay, I have figured it out. Just lava axe me for 2 mana. I respect it. I don't think I brainstorm here. Although, no, I don't think I brainstorm here. Do I brainstorm here? I think I brainstorm here to try and hit that land drop. I'm going to make an assumption. I'm going to assume that my opponent's deck doesn't have Wasteland if they're also a Tribal Flames deck. I don't think you get to do both. Could be wrong. So I'm going to grab Tundra. I do not want Disenchant. And I do not want Terminus. However, I am going to leave Terminus on top of my library, I think. I could also just, like, Isochron Scepter, Swords to Plowshares this turn. I don't hate that either. And then I have just a Fairy next turn or a Swords to Plowshares. Yeah, okay. I am going to need to respect Lava Axes, though. Basic land, huh? This is wild. That Terminus I just fetched away, huh? Do I want to counter one of these so I can just, like, Swords to Plowshares the other? Like, I can Force of Will the Bloodbraid Elf, pitching Spellseeker, and then just, like, either bounce the Tarmogoyf or Swords to Plowshares the Tarmogoyf. I think I'm good with that. Countering the Bloodbraid Elf here just saves the damage this turn, which I think is a big deal. Actually, do I want a Teferi? Maybe I just want an Isochron Scepter. I'm going to do that now. I don't know how many counter spells, what counter spells, if any, I need to be playing around. It's probably just Force of Will. Because, like, Bloodbraid Elf is a thing. This is spicy. Just drawing these super situational one-ofs. What's a preordain and why might I want it? Please don't have another Tribal Flames. That's half my life total. That's happening. How do they fit the basic in? I am so scared. Like, this is creature number 3, I think, 4 that I've sent to exile. Yeah, this is creature 4 that I have sent to the Shadow Realm, and I killed a Blood Raid Elf too. Fuck! Yeah! That... Yep. Alright, what do I have that kills dudes? I need it. Oh god, this back to basics looks good. Okay, maybe let's start this way. I don't want Disenchant. I don't want Stifle. I don't want Surgical. I do, I think, want Angel's Grace. Yeah, I do want Angel's Grace. Maybe I'll even play another one. Like, do I Fog? I might even, like, straight up Fog. These things that don't immediately impact the board are spooky. I'm gonna play Path to Exile. I'm going to play Angel's Grace. I don't think I'm going to play the Holy Day, because this stops me from dying to burn spells. And I probably need to play some number of Fluster Storms. Counter spells are nice because they enter creatures. Let's assume Into the Royal is too slow. I could play 2 Flusterstorm in that spot. I wonder if I even have time to set up Terminus. Oh, I also need the back to basics. That's a real win condition. Trim 1 Spellseeker for that. This is a spicy way to end the league, though. I will keep this. I don't think my opponent is a Price of Progress deck, but that was a thought that just crossed my mind. I think I'll be leading on Flooded Strand here, assuming that I fetch a Tundra. Alright, am I supposed to Swords to Plowshares that? I don't think that I am. I don't think that I am. Like, if the Noble Hierarch is attacking me for 1, I don't love that, but I am okay with it. It's these creatures that have 3 or more power that are getting a Lightning Bolt worth of value every turn that I'm really spooked about. I'm hoping to Brainstorm in this turn cycle, maybe clear up the hand a little bit, find another land or 2, and then go from there. I don't know. One reason to just get rid of the Noble Hierarch, though, is the Noble Hierarch is fixing. So, like, Noble Hierarch produced 2 colors that Taiga didn't. I would Swords to Plowshares that, I suppose. I'm going to go ahead and Brainstorm in response to that. Not because I care about it, but because I'm going to do that anyway. Let's assume that 1 Flusterstorm goes back. Am I past the point where I need the Force of Will? Maybe I'm past the point where I need the Force of Will. I guess since I put the back to basics in my deck, I shouldn't be just fetching Tundra with impunity, huh? Oh, that's awkward. This should be a basic plains. We're just doing that for tempo. It means that, like, I'm not going to take a Mantis Rider hit to my dome this turn or something like that. Oh, that sure is not answerable by my cards, huh? So much for not needing that Force of Will. Alright, what's the plan? Do I have a plan? Disenchant doesn't kill that. Angel's Grace? Mentor? Alright. Fair. There's Mentor. I don't think I get to tap out for that this turn. I think I play that next turn. When I can do it with Fluster backup. I think I can afford to take that turn. Loath is definitely a nuisance here, though. So if possible, I don't want to fetch because I also want the Isochron Scepter maybe for Angel's Grace later? Question mark. I will counterspell this. What is this? Lightning Helix? Is that Flusterstorm? Maybe that's Flusterstorm. I am going to fetch. It's basic planes. Because then I mentor with Teferi. Protection and Counterspell and Swords to Plowshare is all available. If my opponent doesn't do anything other than just drain me, I can think about Swords to Plowsharing Noble Hierarch at end of turn, although dropping Counterspell is a little dubious. What is this? Oh, maybe they just needed black mana. All right. Is this a Teferi bounce thing? Do I start there? I don't think so. I think I'll start with Ponder. Ponder into Brainstorm into Spellseeker or something of that ilk is probably fine. I think I've got this game more or less locked up. I don't think I need to vary. I'm just going to get Noble Hierarch out of the way. Do 1,000,000,000 points of damage this turn, approximately. Yeah, that's fine. So the cool thing here is that I have a Swords to Plowshares for one of my own monk tokens that can gain me some life if I can't just like outright kill my opponent in the next turn. Every 1 mana thing that I do is worth 5 damage. I have Tribal Flames worth the values off of like Ponders and such. Alright. Snapcaster Lightning Helix on Mentor is not the best for me, but it's a thing. It also could go at my Dome, but I think you answer Mentor. Oh. Did they straight up tap in a way that doesn't let them play Lightning Helix? That's rough. Alright. I can Swords to Plowshares, Snapcaster Mage, Jace, unsummon Noble Hierarch, crash in. That's probably fine. Actually, is Spellseeker just better? Spellseeker might just be better. Do I just grab Swords to Plowshares, just take it out of the way, or do I try to get more value off cantrips? Let's just get it out of the way, and then I can play Jace next turn. Alright, I think I have left my opponent with nothing that kills me. Yeah, okay, cool. My opponent has a couple of Planeswalkers as well, which means the Force of Negations are better than I initially thought, as are the counterspells. And the Angel's Grace is maybe a little bit worse than I thought. Flusterstorm is a little bit worse on the draw. I don't know that I have time to set up Terminus. Awkward because I like conceptually like Terminus against like the deck full of creatures. But my opponent's deck is aggressive. I don't know that I get to like brainstorm or like use Jace to set up Terminus a good portion of the time. I think I'm actually gonna board this out. That might be crazy talk, but it feels okay. And I'll play a couple of Force of Negation here. I should also probably like go down an Isochron Scepter or two. Or another counterspell. Let's go down one of them. I'm good with seeing an Isochron Scepter in a game. I don't want to see two. This hand is fine. I can keep this. Alright. What do I want to do about Noble Herrick? Do I want to Swords to Plowshares it with this hand? I don't think so. I think I'm going to Swords to Plowshares whatever creature my opponent plays. Dead. Which land? Flooded Strand? Flooded Strand does everything. Let's play Flooded Strand. I want to have blue in the not too distant future for counterspell. Also, like, just throwing it out there, I think if my opponent might have tapped differently for Snapcaster Mage that previous game, so that, like, Lightning Helix did its thing, I might not have won that game. That's fine. I will Swords to Plowshares that. That's Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt is fine. Alright, am I fetching Tundra? I think I'm fetching Tundra. I don't want to be overly fixated on my one back to basics. Like, the card's good, but if I think if I play too safely with my mana, I might actually end up regretting that. Alright, this is where things like Bloodbraid Elf can happen. There it is. Kitchen Finks? Interesting. My next turn involves a Ponder. Counter Bloodbraid Elf for the haste. Counter Kitchen Finks because I can theoretically kill it. Bounce is kind of bad against both of these. Let's counter Bloodbraid Elf under the hopes that I can... Actually, do I just force Kitchen Finks? Like, force Kitchen Finks, play tap Mystic Sanctuary, give my opponent one turn to play something, then Jace unsummon it. Kitchen Finks is not the sort of card I want to force a will, but I do really like keeping the board empty right now. It's not the best value play in the history of value plays by any means of the... by any stretch of the imagination, rather. Resolves. That's gonna name Swords to Plowshares, I bet. Leaving me with relatively few removal spells. They named my one of Monastery Mentor. That's quite lucky for me. Alright, I don't think it's Jace time yet. I think we go Mystic Sanctuary. I'll put Swords to Plowshares on top. We'll use that ability. I'll cast Ponder. Yeah, this is great. I get a Spell Seeker for another removal spell next turn. I think I can wait until my opponent's turn to Swords to Plowshares based on what I've seen so far. That will probably rename Monastery Mentor, in all likelihood. Yep. Alright, starting to feel good. Like, Jace comes down one turn from now. and then I will probably feel safe. Yeah, so my opponent doesn't know my deck list, obviously. If they did, and they named Swords to Plowshares, that would be quite bad for me. I'll just take that damage. That's fine. I mean, that's happening. Take out this. A lot of ways to use this Jace. I am just going to brainstorm. I want to convert into cards that matter. I can keep land plus counterspell. But that involves double fetching. I think I'm just going to put back both lands and fetch. I'm going to do it now because I am 100% fetching. We're just hoping to like open up this mana. Be good to go from here. I'm fine with letting Jace take one here. I left the Spellseeker back specifically for Bloodbraid Elf. Oh, I am being attacked by Noble Hierarch. 5 versus 4 is probably not that big a difference. I'm going to go ahead and take that point. Lol. Alright. I have to force a will that or I die. Unfortunate, should have jump blocked. Now a lightning bolt kills me. Alright. Do not want any of that right now. Alright, Jace, you need to find me something here. Those are some things. I'm going to put back Narset, Flusterstorm. We'll play Narset. Grab a card out of Narset. Swords to Plowshares. I don't mind that. Is that better than Flusterstorm? That's probably better than Flusterstorm at this point. Alright, now Isochron Scepter starts to look good. I think I'm just going to chump block here. Like, I need to respect my ability to fetch. This is great. Wrong. Alright, so about respecting my ability to fetch. No more ability to fetch. Spellseeker can get me another Angel's Grace. Do I start with a Brainstorm? There's a lot of ways to play this turn. I can Brainstorm, put some stuff back I don't want, and then Narset through it. Get Angel's Grace back with Mystic Sanctuary and Narset. I think just raw spells are valuable right now, though. Maybe let's shuffle and get clean looks after Spellseeker. I grab Swords to Plowshares and hope to find any blue card with Narset. That's better than a blue card, I think. Alright, I'll hold up Angel's Grace. I'll just chump block with the Spellseeker next turn. And then on my turn, I'll Swords to Plowshares the Noble Hierarch if I don't find some other way dealing with it. But I don't want to tap out this turn and then get got by like my opponent casting a burn spell that I could otherwise play around multiple different ways. Opponent asked, does Tribal Flames and Angel's Grace make the thumbnail? Maybe it's good. Uh let's start with just drawing the cards. Misty Rainforest is bad. I don't think I need basic planes right now. I don't need basic planes. Yeah. Let's call that a turn. Tribal Flames me. We'll just Force of Negation that. Maybe I'm supposed to just Angel's Grace that? Then I don't have to answer the Noble Hierarch this turn. Very specifically, I'm going to Path to Exile here over Swords to Plowshares so that I can potentially Swords to Plowshares one of my own creatures later. Alright, I would like to find Mentor. Maybe I should start plussing this Jace at some point. I also do need to worry about the clock. Not being able to shuffle is a bit tricky here. I could use this Brainstorm to power through it, but I just like all of the things that I have access to currently. I can keep putting those 2 lands back on top of my library for a while. I hope to find Mentor, but Isochron Scepter is also just very good. think I'm okay playing one main phase Brainstorm, just get a feel for whether I have something down there that's relevant. I'll hardcast a Force of Will if my opponent fires off a burn spell here. Oh, nice. Isochron Scepter is very good. All right. I have Angel's Grace under Isochron Scepter. I assume that wins me the game most of the time. Like, with the other things that I have here. Like, now I can start going into Jace Fate Seal mode. And I can Fate Seal myself to get rid of some of those lands. I'll just Isochron Scepter that. That's fine. Second Lightning Bolt is a good attempt. Actually, I bet I hardcast Force of Will there. Because I can still Force of Negation on their turn without life loss. I am actually gonna just Fate Seal them. Yeah, I'll put that on bottom just so I don't have to mess with it. Oh no. Uh, that's fine as long as it's not a second haste creature. Yeah, you can have that land. I haven't done this in a hot minute. I don't know that that's your proper fetch land timing there, but they might have their reasons. Yes, I'll bottom that. That's a persistent source of damage. No. I'll just leave that there. I have Isochron Scepter to cover that. Oh, actually, I probably shouldn't be doing this, right? This eats up too much clock. Yeah, I think I'm going to timeout. Ah, that's a shame. We end up timing that one out. GG's, opponent. GG's. If I put that one into turbo mode, or like I didn't play out the mentor to distract myself, I could have finished that one off with Jace, I think. Like that game was locked up. So we're effectively 1-4, but you know, scoreboard, we're 0-5. That's fine. Okay, thoughts on the deck list. I think there's a couple of different problems here. Number one, I think 4 Isochron Scepter is too many. Like, this deck wants to draw 1 Isochron Scepter over the course of the game. And it doesn't necessarily want the Isochron Scepter in its opening hand, right? It becomes like something that's really cute you can do once you're already established. I think that's problem one, is like maybe you play 2 of these, maybe you play 3 of these, but the full play set doesn't feel good, especially after you mulligan. Going down an additional card doesn't feel great, especially when there's a bunch of things in the format that just kind of naturally answer this. Your Karns, your Collector Oofs, and things of that nature. This isn't just 100% safe in game one. Number two, I think there's too many situational cards in this main deck. All right, so like, let's take these cards, for example. I don't think we stifled anything super important over the course of the league. Um, Actually, we might have stifled a Thassa's Oracle, or tried to stifle a Thassa's Oracle, so that might be true. But for most of the leagues, Stifle didn't look good. I don't know that we need the Disenchant in game one. I don't know if we need Into the Royal if we have Teferi already as an out to that sort of thing. And like, we definitely weren't getting to the kicker mana most of the time. And the game one Surgical, we never lived that dream of like Isochron Scepter Surgical and just like blow through opponents' resources. So I think if you want to play an Isochron Scepter deck, I would start by cutting these 5 cards, and I would just play some more interaction. I don't know how good of a Terminus deck we are. I can tell you I wanted more Monastery Mentors. So if I were going to do this, I would maybe look at playing a couple of Preordains and maybe another Monastery Mentor or two to just have some other powerful cards that can carry games. Um, Maybe even a Path to Exile in the main deck or something like that. I don't think that'd be crazy either. Terminus didn't feel particularly great over the course of this league. As far as the sideboard goes, the back to basics is a little bit awkward at times because specifically of Counterspell that wants you to have blue on turn 2, like relatively consistently, because we often board up to 4 counterspells. And if you also want to do things like, you know, be able to Miracle a Terminus, you need to be thinking about your mana. Sometimes you want to be able to Swords to Plowshares on 1. Sorry, I kind of forgot where the tail end of that thought was going. My bad. Back to basics, I think, is an option that I like having, but it doesn't feel 100% free. It just feels good, and that's often the case. Overall, I don't know that Isochron Scepter is currently up to snuff by Legacy standards. Like, you go down a card to use it, it requires 2 more mana in addition to the 2 mana of Isochron Scepter in order to get your first thing. So if you put a Swords to Plowshares under it, right, that's 4 mana to get your first card removed. And then when you remove 2 creatures for a total of 6 mana, that starts to look good. When you move 3 for 8, okay, like now you're really starting to get your value. But because like Isochron Scepter is maybe more of this end game card, you know, maybe you need to decrease its numbers. The other thing here is that Like, maybe Isochron Scepter just isn't as good as a Planeswalker, right? We have really good 3-mana Planeswalkers now, with things like Narset and Teferi that weren't around when Isochron Scepter had its previous heyday in Legacy. So maybe the time has passed on this one. Or maybe if you want to be doing Isochron Scepter, you need to be doing something else. Like, you need to be putting, I don't know, Lightning Helix under it or something, where those repeated activations are just going to be crazy good as the game goes along. I don't know. So this one doesn't get a thumbs down from me. Like, I don't actively disapprove of this deck list, but I don't feel like it's there as it stands now. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this. Some of these games were crazy nail biters. If you did enjoy the content, please take a second and throw me a like. And if you want to tinker with the deck list yourself and throw your ideas out there, the comments are there. Let me read what you have to say. Have a great rest of the day.